Hey, everybody. It's your girl, Chef Evelyn here, and I am so excited because today I wanted to bring you this video. I have a great friend of mine joining me, and we're going to have a quick chat about food and progressing in our healthy eating journey. I have with me a licensed therapist, Kimberly Miller of Harmony Counseling Services. And we're going to talk a little bit about like emotional eating. We're going to talk about her journey in food, and we're going to give you some tips on how you can kind of conquer your relationship with food as well. As you know, we are gearing up for the Fun Food Academy, and enrollment is opening soon. And so I thought this would be a perfect way to start off the year, because many times we want to eat healthy, we want to get better, and we know what to do, but for some reason we don't do it. And so I know that Kim can help us with that today. So welcome to the video, Kim. How are
Hey,
you?
everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm so excited.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. I don't think people realize how valuable it is to have someone like you here to kind of talk about the mental and emotional side of food from a professional standpoint, but then also your own personal healthy eating journey and what kind of led you to making some significant lifestyle changes recently. So, first of all, I just want to kind of get into a little bit about you and what you do professionally. I personally know I've known you for years. You have helped me tremendously in multiple areas of my life just from our girlfriend chats. But for the people that don't know, tell them a little bit more about your work and what you do with Harmony Counseling Services.
All right. So, as Evelyn indicated, my name is Kimberly. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I don't necessarily need to tell y'all how long I've been practicing. It's been over 20 years. I don't need anybody doing any math to figure anything out. But I have been doing it for a very long time. Currently, I have my own practice, Harmony Counseling Services, where I work with individuals. I do a lot of work with women around wellness, and emotional health. I do a lot of work with couples around marital recovery and what I like to call helping couples build a beautiful marriage. So I have my own practice, and which has been a blessing. And so, really my work is about helping people develop better relationships with self first, and then growing out from that to be able to build better relationships with others, be that your children or your significant other or your coworkers. But just really helping people to dig deep, figure out what those barriers are to their own wellness, and then just help giving them the space to do the work that they need to do to get where they're trying to get to. So.
I love it. It's fantastic. Now, this is a totally off-topic question, but do you take virtual consultations with clients?
I do phone consultations primarily, but if people want to hop on a video call, absolutely, I have the capacity to do that. Yeah.
Okay, great, because I want to make sure I put your information in the description of this video so that if people hear something that you share along the way and they're like, you know what, I think she might be the one for me, I definitely want to put them in contact with you. And since this is going out all across the internet, yeah, awesome. So one of the reasons why I wanted to bring you on is because, I tell the story all the time that when I first got diagnosed with cancer, after the doctor gave me the diagnosis, I immediately turned to my mother and said, I don't want to hear anything about going vegan. And I knew at that moment I had a really unhealthy relationship with food. Yes, I was focused on that diagnosis in the moment, but I remember throughout my career, people being like, oh, will you do a healthy cooking demonstration? Being like, I don't want to hear about healthy. I don't want to talk about healthy. I'm anything but that. And so I knew that I had personally an unhealthy emotional relationship with food. Can you talk a little bit about like people with unhealthy relationship with food, maybe where that comes from or how we get there?
Well, I think, yeah, I would love to. I think first we kind of need to know what it means to have an unhealthy relationship with food. And for me, an unhealthy relationship with food is generally that we're using food for anything above and beyond nourishment. Food is designed as fuel and nourishment for us. And so many of us can get into unhealthy relationships with food. It's super easy to do because the food becomes something other than nourishment. So the number one function that it serves when we start to get to an unhealthy place is for comfort. And so we seek food, certain foods, something oral to comfort us. The other function that food serves, believe it or not, is that it allows us to, we have to chew food and then we have to swallow food. So swallowing is a way of suppressing emotion. So when we don't want to feel anything, to swallow, when we swallow, it helps us to swallow more than just food. Right? Boredom. You know, we go to food because we're bored. We don't have anything to do, you know. Yesterday when I was coming back from Solemn Assembly, I was thinking, man, you know, I'm bored. Like, I want something sweet to eat. And I thought, oh, wait, it's Solemn Assembly. I can't have anything. It's after 3 o'clock. And then that moment, I realized that was a moment where I was turning to food because I was feeling something. And so I think many of us probably have unhealthy relationships with food, but we don't recognize that that's what's happening. And in order to get there, you have to have some awareness. You know, there's a process of trying to be aware about not only how are we using food, but what is going on inside of us and what's the correlation. You know, when I grab that sweet thing, what's going on inside of me emotionally, internally, that drives me to want that thing.
That's so good, because I often have found myself wanting to, I had a great day, let me reward myself with a cupcake, or I had a hard day, let me console myself with pizza and wine, right? And so I think what's really interesting to me is the part about the swallowing, because it never dawned on me that is something suppressive. And so when I think about the times where I, myself or students that have taken classes when we talk about their emotional eating, it's really like, I don't even want to deal with this right now. I just want to eat something good, watch a movie, go to bed. You know what I mean?
Reminds me of one other thing I forgot to say is food allows us to numb, right? It allows us to do something called dissociate. Dissociate means you cut off. And so food is a great way to numb. You know, you can focus on the flavor, you can focus on the sweetness, you can focus on the coolness of the ice cream, you can focus on the sweetness, whatever it is, but it does allow food it can be very numbing. And we're generally trying to numb from things that we don't want to feel. But there's a whole lot to say about that. And so we have to be very careful about that, because if you're trying to numb with food, then you're going to have to eat a lot all the time. Right? Because those feelings are constantly trying to make their way up, which is what they're supposed to be doing. That's what we want them to do. But if you don't have the tools to manage them, then you're going to have to find a way to numb. And so food, alcohol, and a whole bunch of other ways are the way that we numb.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, speaking of, food, alcohol, narcotics, shopping, let's talk a little bit about food as an addiction, because I think a lot of people think that, the only way to have an unhealthy relationship with food is if I'm, throwing up food or binge eating. And I do think those are very, extreme cases of having an unhealthy relationship with food. But let's talk a little bit about food as an addiction, because I think it might be a little bit more prevalent than people believe. And so what are your thoughts on that?
So it goes back to what I said about numbing. So what we know about addiction is a means of numbing. So it doesn't matter what the addictive process is or the addictive thing is that you're addicted to. It's about numbing and cutting ourselves off, and it's about finding a way to avoid. So in that way, we can be addicted to food. Many people may find themselves particularly turning to carbohydrates, sweets, and certain types of food, because they do give us, sugar does give us a boost. Sugar is a drug. It gives us a high. So there's an addiction to that piece as well. So there's a emotional addictive piece, and then there's the physiological addictive piece. It's like eating a potato chip, we know that you can't, like when I open up, well, I haven't opened up a bag of Lay's in a long time, but when I used to eat Lay's, I can't just eat one potato chip. Or I had a thing right before I started my food journey with Lorna Doones, right? Like I had to have 4 Lorna Doones every night. I was literally addicted to them. I had to have them. So we can be addicted when you have to have something despite the negative consequence to you. When you have to have something and you know you shouldn't have it, but you have it anyway, you're likely getting into some type of addictive process.
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that I've experienced when I've taught the Fun Food Academy live was that anytime I kind of tiptoed around people's favorite fill in the blank, anything that they had to have, even if it was something as simple as coffee, is that people get really attached, defensive, angry when you start to creep up on their food rules. So tell me a little bit about that. And then I want to get, after that, we're going to talk a little bit about your food journey.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just nailed it. I think that we all have things, you know, I am on my journey and I still have a couple of things that I'm working on. One of them is coffee. You know, last night, again, during solemn assembly, all I could think about is, ooh, I can't wait till I get up in the morning and have my coffee. Like, I want my coffee. And so we can become anything that and I've learned this through doing the Daniel fast for a few years and not being successful at doing the Daniel fast because of this, is that anything you tell yourself that you cannot have, you cannot be without, you have to have, you might want to take a look at that. There's probably some addictive piece to that. Now we can rationalize that, right? You know, for me, my rationalization around coffee is that if I don't drink it, I'm gonna get a headache, you know, and I got to get through my day. So I'm gonna have a headache. So I got to drink my coffee. It doesn't matter what it is. If you've got some kind of rationalization why you have to have it, you might want to explore that. You know, let's go a little deeper and really try to understand what is that dependency really about. So
You know, I one of the things that I start off in the Fun Food Academy is really helping people adjust their relationship with food and to figure out where they got these messages from, that healthy food isn't fun, healthy food is bland, healthy food is boring. And we talk a little bit about like whatever that one thing is that you can't give up, you know, from a spiritual standpoint, since you mentioned the Daniel fast, is an idol. Anything that you're like, I will not give up, or I have to have, or I will do everything in the Daniel fast, but this is the one thing that they probably need to let go of. So for example,
more and be curious first about it, you know, before they let it go, because there's a fight. It's a street fight, right? You know this. Trying to get somebody to let go of something that they're not ready to let go of. It don't matter if it's food, a relationship, whatever, behavior. You're trying to get them to do it. That's a street fight. So you don't want to have a street fight with people because you won't win, right? They're going to win. But what you can encourage people to do, which is what I hear you saying, is to be curious. What is this really about? Go beyond this idea of I can't and really explore why you think you can't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. And why is the attachment so strong? So I'll use myself as an example, because I tell people that healthy eating is a journey, not a destination. There is no end goal. And so last year for the Daniel fast, it had gotten to the point where the Daniel fast, I got to a point where I was like, okay, I got this. But my particular vice is carbohydrates. Okay. So that is my warning, Evelyn, you're sliding down the scale, is carbohydrates. So even though on the Daniel fast, you can have potatoes, you can have rice, you can have beans, I chose to do the Daniel fast and then take it a step further and do it grain-free to help myself break this craving, this need for something bready or starchy, right? And so I always tell people, you know, it's baby steps. I used to never do the Daniel fast. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with the Daniel fast, from just a culinary standpoint, it's 21 days of being vegan with also no sweeteners. And then from a spiritual standpoint, it's really to help push the plate away so that you can focus more on your relationship with God and break any kind of stronghold that you may have, that you may be putting in place of where God needs to be. And so I used to struggle on the physical side significantly from the withdrawals, from the cravings, and this notion of I can't have that. So what I want to talk about now, because you mentioned this about not being able to make it to the day fast before, and now choosing a healthier lifestyle, you know, pre-Daniel fast. Talk to me a little bit about your journey and kind of where you are at the moment.
Okay, so this journey is a long journey. I was reflecting about this morning, and I think this journey probably began, I don't know, maybe the beginning of 2019. I think it began maybe even at the end of 18 when I start to become reflective about my age. So in June of this past year of 19, I hit 50. And
looking good, looking good.
I know, this is great. Thank you. And so just became very reflective. And I think through that reflective process, started to think about how can I stay healthy? And I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be transparent. A part of my journey, my wellness journey, has really been about the fact that I am a single woman, and who was married before, but now divorced, but I'm a single woman, and I need to be able to take care of myself. I don't have anybody that if I get sick, who's going to be there, I don't have anybody to push my wheelchair. That's kind of what I say to myself. So I started to be very intentional about, well, you need to stay healthy as long as you can. You need to live a long, full, healthy life. So that's kind of the start of it. I think the first thing that I started to do was to increase my water intake. I had this app that it was a how to build routine in your life. And so my water was what I worked on. And so I've been working on, trying to be better about intaking water. So I got that and I started working on that. And then when I was getting close to 50, I decided I was going to start exercising. So I did this whole, challenge for myself that I was going to do 50 miles, 50 before 50. So it was the week before I turned 50, and I was going to run 50 miles or walk 50 miles. And so I started that. So that got my exercise on board. And then I had to take my first, get my first colonoscopy after I turned 50. And so right before that, I watched a show called The Game Changers on Netflix. It's a movie. And that got my attention. So that was probably about a week before I went in for my colonoscopy. So I go get my you go through the process of getting a colonoscopy, you got to get things cleaned out. So I did that the day before. And then I woke up from my colonoscopy, and the next day I felt amazing. I just felt good. And I was curious about that. And I had watched Game Changers probably like 3 days before, and was already kind of thinking about this idea about having a plant-based diet. And so I woke up from my colonoscopy, and I had this internalized commitment to, for the next week, I'm just not going to do any dairy product. I'm not going to do any meat, no meat, protein, no eggs, nothing. So I started it, did my first week. And surprisingly, it was a lot easier than I thought it would be. There was a few cravings, but I was excited. And I'll tell you what really motivated me, and it continues to motivate me, is I felt better. Like I felt about 15 to 20 years younger. My sleep got better. My energy improved. I got that mental fogginess kind of went away. My mood improved. And then the biggest thing for me, there's two things that really motivate me. One is my gut health has always been an issue for me. And so I've always had gastrointestinal discomfort or bloating or gas or whatever. I got diagnosed with IBS many years ago, which was really just constipation. Right. When they don't know what's wrong with the gut, that's what they tell you. You have IBS, right? And more of that people don't realize is stress related, but we can talk about that later. So week 1 went great. I was super excited. I was amped up. And then the week 2 came, and I was like, all right, let's go deeper. Let's try to figure this out. And so I found this beginning vegan eating guide that I read through, and I got a little bit more curious. Week 2 happened. I felt good. I was committed. And then we're rolling into the holidays, and I was thinking, okay, how am I going to manage this through the holidays? And I did. I managed Christmas pretty well. I went to a couple of Christmas parties and did really well. And so what I'm doing is a plant-based diet. Many people would consider it veganism, but I actually prefer to use the term a whole food plant-based diet. And what that has caused me to do is, again, I'm only eating things that grow out of the ground. So there's only one thing that I'm consuming on the daily that is not grown out of the ground, which I'm working on, which is coffee creamer. But my goal is to get off of it. But I've meal planning and shopping and just learning this process has been very eye-opening and exciting all at the same time. So that's where I am. I am currently walking into week 5 as of Saturday. I feel good. I am excited about it. I'm eager to share. You know, I have to be careful with sharing because I think people start to look at me a little bit crazy, like, okay, enough, you know, we've heard enough. It's interesting because people are curious and then I get excited and then you can see the look on their eyes like, okay, that's enough. I don't want to know. I don't know anymore. So yeah, so the opportunity to share that with other people, you know, like I feel like I figured out something and I want everybody else to know that this is a game changer. It's a life changer. You have the ability to feel better, to, you know, I feel like God has something for me to do and he wants me to take this path because he wants me to do it in a state of wellness. You know, and I give all the glory to him because I couldn't do this without him. I am the person who could never finish the Daniel fast. Week 1, I was out, you know, started with all the intentions and here I am in week 5, basically doing the Daniel fast. So.
I love it. So I want to touch on a couple of things that you said. First of all, I'm so excited. I remember a couple of years ago, you know, you joined the Eat Out at Home Challenge and, you know, we talked about that. And I think that was 2017. So I feel like I might have had a little something to do with seed planning.
Listen, you've been planting seeds since I met you.
Yes. Yeah. And it's that excitement that you talked about, right? And I think that's why I brought the Fun Food Academy online versus just in person, because to your point, one of the things you said is about how good you feel. I think looking great in your clothes or being, you know, for some people a smaller size, I think those things are fantastic, but sometimes I don't know if they're enough of a motivator. But when you understand how good your body can feel just by changing the fuel, it's kind of like driving a luxury car and you put in premium gas and then you switch and you put in cheap gas, like you can feel the car running differently. It's the same thing with the body.
Yeah,
it's the same thing with the body.
Absolutely. Yeah, like
and then
that food is definitely like high quality gas for sure.
Absolutely. It's like the most premium, clean gas that you can get. And then another thing I want to talk about that you touched upon was excitement. So a lot of times when people are talking about wanting to improve their, you know, their lifestyle with food and their healthy eating journey, you know, there's this dread and doom and gloom. So talk to me a little bit more about like the excitement that you feel, because that's why I called it the Fun Food Academy, because somewhere we have picked up the message that this journey has to be restrictive and horrible and almost like a punishment. And I feel it as fun and expansive and adventurous. So talk a little bit more about that.
So I think the excitement happens when the mindset shifts, right? So when the mindset is, this is a form of deprivation, when you view healthy as deprivation, there will be no excitement. Right. There will be dread, resistance, frustration, and maybe even some anger. I'm not sure. So I think the mindset has to shift, and you have to see this as, this is not a diet, this is a lifestyle, and it's also about health and wellness and wholeness and all these other things. And so I think when that mindset shifts, that's when the energy happens. So for me, I am excited to learn. So I'm an Enneagram 7. If anybody's familiar with the Enneagram, I am all about fun and novelty and blingy things. And I do have a tendency not to complete things, so I have to be super intentional. But when I think about this journey, the 7 in me gets very excited about it because there's so much to learn, you know, like there's the basics to learn, but then there's these things like, you know, how to take my cooking game. I'm excited about how to take my cooking game up to the next level. And I want to learn more about the tools that I need, you know, to be able to cook better. And I'm excited about all the changes that haven't even happened in my body yet. So for me, it's like, ooh, there's so much more for me to figure out and so much more for me to learn. And so, but for me, I've gotten out of this deficit. I have moments like yesterday, somebody was barbecuing. I was walking, I was like, I won't be able to have barbecue chicken, but that's okay. right? I was able to move out of it. I was like, you know what, but I can put some other stuff on the grill, you know, and maybe there's some other things that I can do. So when you got to come out of the deficit, out of the scarcity concept, and really kind of look at it as an opportunity to do some new things and to learn some new things. And I think when that happens, that excitement just, for me, it just exploded.
Absolutely. So I want to talk about two more things that you mentioned. One, which is what you just mentioned about the excitement about learning how to cook and the new tools that you need to have. And so one of the things we go into depth in the Fun Food Academy is about how to prepare your kitchen, about how to really get set up for success, because that's half the battle. Yes. And so also about learning how to become a better cook, because one of the things that I can tell you from teaching people how to cook for the past 10 years, and I did the math recently, I think it's been over 10,000 people between in person and online. Yeah, I was like, I've got my 10,000 hours, like I've got my sample size, is that what happens is most people in their everyday cooking rely on what I call the culinary crutches, which is fat, sugar, and salt, to make their food taste good. And so when you're on a healthier eating journey, you realize that there's like 5,000 other things you can do to make food taste good instead of adding fat, sugar, or an excessive amount of salt. So that warms my heart that you're excited to learn about the tools and also about the cooking, because we talk about that in the Fun Food Academy, because it's one of those things that trips people up. Like if you go down this journey and you're just trying to eat salads all the time, you're not gonna make it.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And the thing that I'm excited about is you and I talked about this a little bit a while ago, is seasoning. All of the different seasonings. There's so many things you can do. I was making some lentils the other day, and anybody who's ever eaten lentils know that they can be a little bit bland. There's not a whole lot of innate flavor in them, and I thought, well, let me just put a little poultry seasoning in these and see what happens. It just
a whole new world.
It just kind of kicked it up, right? And so there's a lot to learn. So it's good that the program is going to walk people through all of that, because those are aspects and elements of being able to maintain this lifestyle. Because you're right, if you don't move past salads, you're probably going to be deucing out after a while.
Yeah, you're going to be laid up somewhere with a pork chop. You know what I mean? So to that point, one of the things that you mentioned earlier was that, you're doing a more plant-based lifestyle, but you don't want to call it vegan. And then also you mentioned like, you smelled some barbecue chicken. I think one of the things that I like to tell people is that it's a journey, and there's not the health spectrum is wider than people think. Some people are raw foodists, and so nothing touches the flame. Some people are pescatarian, some people are lacto vegetarian, some people are vegan. But what I tell people is one of the things that I challenge them not to do is not to put a label on it, because that is where the restriction feeling comes from. And then what I like to call the food Nazis, or the food gangs that claim their set, that rep their set, okay? Will come in and, if you post something on social media. And so one of the examples I give is I'm known for quote unquote cooking healthy recipes on my Instagram stories. And one day I was making something with organic, hormone-free, grass-fed beef. And I got a message that was like, I'm so shocked that you're using beef. And I thought you were using turkey.
Screaming.
Yeah, and I said, I politely had time, and I said, when did I ever say that I don't eat beef? And so one of the things that I think is great is you're saying you're just plant focused, right? And so if in 6 months from now, you're like, I want one piece of chicken, the world is not going to end, or you're not off the diet. That's one of the things that I teach people in the Fun Food Academy, is how to create their own healthy eating game plan, because it's not the same for everyone. And that it's for where you are. Like you said, you didn't go from 0 to 100 overnight. It started with water. Let me just start with some water. Then it went into, okay, let me exercise. Then it went into, let me, lay off the meat for a while, or whatever that may be. And so for some people that may be, let me just get out the fast food line, let me just lay off the bacon, or whatever the case may be.
Whatever your path is, everybody's path is going to be different. And I think each person has to be introspective enough about their own life and what's going to work for them and what they need to determine their path. It's not a set path.
Exactly. And that's one of the things I love to do is I walk people through a process of how to figure out where they are, where they want to be ultimately, but where they need to start and how to chart that out. And I call it their strategic healthy eating game plan, because diets aren't one size fits all. I really don't like the term diets, because I believe that a diet is wanting to do something short term for a long term result, and in life there's no such thing. So so now that you have been in your more plant-focused lifestyle change over the past couple of weeks, what are some things that you find interesting or that you think would help people who are looking to start their own healthy eating journey?
I think my first tip is that if you're considering this process, this journey, I think it's important to know what your purpose and your mission in doing it is, because you're going to need to hold tight to that during this process. Mm-hmm. When I've had moments where I haven't questioned it, but there have been moments, like I said, when I was walking and I smelled the smell of barbecue, or, kind of the two things that I kind of miss are pizza and chicken wings. Is why, I've imposed on myself that I'm not going to eat those things, but I also need to be able to respond to myself as to why. And I have an answer, and it's because I want to be healthy. And I know personally, if I eat a piece of pizza, or if I have a chicken wing, I'm going back down the rabbit hole. I can't just have one piece of pizza. My body's going to be opened up, and I'm going to want more pizza and more chicken wings. So I know that I want to be healthy. So you got to know why you're doing it. Mm-hmm. I want to wake up and have the energy that I have. I jump out the bed in the morning, I'm like ready to go. Mm-hmm. I don't feel that lethargy, the fatigue. So that's been probably the most important thing, is that I know kind of what my mission is. And this is a long-term journey for me. This isn't a diet, like you said. Mm-hmm. I am fascinated by the curiosity of others. I've posted a little bit, and I'm posting because I want to encourage people, anybody else who's considering it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. And so what I'm fascinated by, what I talked about before, is that people will be like really excited, and they'll encourage me, and then they'll ask questions like, "Hey, how's that going?" Here's the question that I get, which is fascinating to me: are you still doing that healthy eating thing?
Yes.
People used to say that to me about my therapy practice. Are you still doing the psychotherapy thing? And I would laugh, and I'm thinking, I don't ask people, are you still doing that go to work thing? Like, I've never asked that to anyone. Are you still going to work? So I'm fascinated that people ask the question in that way. And I think what is implied is that they're expecting that it's just kind of a fad, and that, are you still doing that thing? And so I'm fascinated by that. And I'm fascinated that people are curious, but people are also resistant all at the same time. Mm-hmm. So I'm having to learn how to know kind of where the line is with each person who asks, because I don't want to be that person that does become that food Nazi person or makes people feel shame, because I don't want to. This is my journey. It's not anybody else's journey. Right. I am fascinated just by how much I keep feeling better. It's like, I started feeling good, and then it's like every week I feel a little bit better and a little bit stronger, and my endurance is better. My workouts are better. It's mind blowing to me. Yeah. And so I'm the person who wants that for everybody, and so that's where my excitement comes from. And so I'm trying to figure out how to integrate this awareness into my practice with my clients too, because I want to be able to help people to kind of explore and look at their relationship with food as a part of their wellness journey. So what else? I think I will say that if anybody's going to do this journey, you need to have somebody that you're doing it with, someone who's going to support you in it, because a lot of people are not going to understand. So create a tribe, create a community, be a part of a community where other people are doing this, because you're going to need that support. Evelyn, you've been hugely helpful. I often think about you, when I'm at the grocery store, when I've made a win or I do something, it's like, oh, I'm going to tell Evelyn, because I know you'll get it. A lot of people, I could call them and be like, hey, this thing happened. Like I told you yesterday, on Saturday, I cooked all my meals by noon for the whole week. I was so excited about it. And I didn't have anyone else that I could call And so I shared it with you because it was a win for me. It was the first time I was able to do that. So just try to, be in community with other people who are trying to live, healthy as well. So, or eat healthily as well.
Absolutely. I mean, I so appreciate you coming and sharing and sharing your professional expertise as well as your personal experience, because I think the things that you have shared are invaluable, and just to hear someone other than myself, because I've shared my journey, and I was more so forced into healthy eating, and that's a different experience when you have to do it, so to speak. And I love the fact that you are choosing to do it, because it's just a different experience when it's I get to versus I have to.
Yes.
And so I always encourage people, don't wait until there's a diagnosis. Don't wait till somebody in your family dies from, an illness that could have been, supported by healthy eating. Don't wait till you experience your own thing. And so I'm so grateful for.
Yeah. Well, basically you're describing not to be reactive in this choice, right? To be proactive and not reactive.
Yes, absolutely. And so I think on that, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. I learned some things. I hope that everyone who who watches this gets to glean from your wisdom. Again, you can connect with Kimberly at Harmony. Is it Harmony Counseling Services? HarmonyCounseling.com?
It is, my website is myfriscocounselor.com.
myfriscocounselor.com, and I will have links to all of her social media and website in the description of this video. If you are like, you know what, I might need to, if you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex and you want to connect with her, you can go to her website and follow the instructions there. If you're not in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex and you're like, you know what, I need to talk to her because, listen, I need to get my emotions together. I need to get my whole wellness together. I would encourage you to do that. She is fantastic. Like she said, she's been practicing for, let's just say she's got over her 10,000 hours in, and has helped me through my own journey with emotions and food and things like that. So just excited to be part of your healthy eating community and to continue to encourage you. And I'm so excited for anyone. If you are looking for a community, we are going to be building one in the Fun Food Academy. Enrollment opens January the 13th, and we get started on January the 20th. So enrollment closes on the 19th. You can go to funfoodacademy.com. And I always tell people that eating well is not an expense, or learning about eating well is not an expense. It's an investment in your future. So I hope to see you all there. Thank you so much, Kimberly. And I will.
I said I had a ball. Thank you.
I did. I had a ball. Listen, we might have to bring you inside the Fun Food Academy to do a little Q&A.
If I can be a resource, let me know.
Absolutely. So thank you so much. And I think that's it.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.